So what are you building towards? What's the vision of the future of the Montana Family Foundation?
Well,
Welcome to the Montana Family Matters podcast. I'm Patrick Webb. Thank you for listening today. You guys are normally used to seeing Derek A. Stryker in this seat, and it's to my benefit today because we are very blessed with a special guest that we've been working to bring onto the show for a long time. You would think it would have been a little bit easier, but this man is busier than you can imagine. We are very lucky to have Jeff Laszloffy, the president and CEO of the Montana Family Foundation, in studio with us today. Jeff, what brings you to Helena, Montana today?
Well, it's Patrick. First off, it's good to be here.
Good.
I'm glad we could put this together. So I'm in Helena today for the very first meeting of the Montana Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission, long title.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a commission created in the last legislative session to evaluate the performance of judges so that people can look at those evaluations and decide whether or not they want to vote for that judge if and when they come up for re-election.
That is such a key issue that we hear across the state. So many people feel like they don't have enough information on these candidates.
Yeah, every election cycle, it is the question that we get at the foundation more than any other. When people look at their ballots, they say, who should I vote for judge? And we've worked hard several different ways to try to get more information for people. But the candidates, the judicial candidates, have just been locked up and just won't give people the information they need. You know, basically they say, you know, I have a spouse, 2 kids, and a dog, and I'm a really nice person, so go please vote for me.
Right.
You know, which just isn't enough information for folks.
Yeah.
And so this Performance Evaluation Commission is one of 18 across the United States. And this is like I said, the first meeting. It's just getting going, and so it's brand new, uncharted territory for those of us on the commission. But we're looking forward to producing a work product that's valuable.
Yeah, that's great. So one of 18, this isn't something that's unique. This is pretty common, probably getting even more common as voters are looking for as much information as possible. They deserve that, you know, if they're going to be voting for these candidates. What kind of outcome are you guys hoping to see through this?
There's 2 types of these commissions out there. There's the commissions that are made up entirely of members of the Bar Association. And then there's those like in Montana, where the commission is made up of a vast array of people from across the political spectrum and across the board ideologically. So in Montana's case, there's 11 members, 4 of them appointed by the governor, 3 appointed by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and then 1 each from the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate and House minority leaders. So 11 altogether. And the purpose is to evaluate judges twice in each point in their tenure or one election cycle.
Yeah.
So we will evaluate them at the midpoint, and that's not made public. And that gives the judge a chance to look at their performance, and their performance will be based on what their peers say as well as what the public says. So questionnaires will go out to that judge's staff, and it'll go out to the lawyers that frequently argue cases in front of that judge. It'll go out to people that have had cases in front of that judge, and then there are others. All that data will be compiled and presented to the judge at the midpoint in their tenure.
Yeah.
And the judge can look at that and say, am I doing a good job? Do people think I'm doing a good job? And if not, what areas am I weak? And those are areas for improvement, which is really important.
Right.
Then we will do another evaluation toward the end of that judge's term, before they're up for re-election. And based on whether or not they decide to run again, that information will either be kept public or be kept private or made public. So if the judge just says, I'm going to walk away from this, I don't want to do this anymore, that evaluation will not be made public. But if they do decide to run for office again, then the information will be made public.
Well, you know me, I really like to find ways that we can get the public involved in any process when it pertains to government representation. Is there anything in here regarding public comment or opportunities for people to at least watch the meetings or anything like that?
Absolutely. So the meetings will be I'm certain that the meetings will be televised. I'm not sure how all that's going to work yet. This is a brand new.
Yeah.
Like I said, today's the first meeting. We don't even have a chairman of the commission yet, so we'll be working on that. But the people at all public hearings in Montana, there's always a comment period, and there will be one at the commission hearings as well. So if the public has something to say, they're more than welcome to.
So this is prior to even the first meeting. Our listeners are getting a sneak peek, though I'm sure this will air after the meeting. But that's really exciting. And I know so many people concerned about judicial reform in the state of Montana.
Yes.
Please keep an eye on this. This is a great way that you can, still be in the loop and hear what's going on. This is not the first time that you have served our state in this type of a capacity, or even a greater capacity. In 2000, you served in the state legislature, and you served 2 terms, right?
2 terms. I was the vice chairman of the House Judiciary Committee for 2 terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second term, you were elected to represent the majority as the Speaker Pro Tem.
Correct.
Which is not a small job.
Yeah, it was fun.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so the Speaker Pro Tem is really a figurehead position.
Okay.
It's a position where if the Speaker is not available or is out of town, then you assume the duties of the Speaker. And that doesn't happen very often, so you don't get a lot of time in the chair. Okay. But it's also the stepping stone into the speakership. And that was my goal, to become the Speaker of the House of Representatives. At the end of that session, little bit of inside baseball here, something that a lot of legislators go through. My wife came to me and said that we were having challenges with one of our children. He decided that he was going to milk teenagerhood for all he could get from it. And so we had a decision to make, and my decision instantly was go home and be dad. Yeah. And so I walked away from the legislature, and it's never a guarantee that I would have been the Speaker in the next session, but the odds were there, and people couldn't believe that there were people in the legislature that had scraped and scratched and clawed for years to get into those leadership slots, and they'd do almost anything to get one of those leadership positions. It's not who I am. Yeah. I've always believed that God places me where he wants me to bring him glory. Yeah. So, and if that's not in the legislature, that's fine. So I announced that I was leaving the legislature. And another interesting side story. So once I made that decision, I was up at the Capitol one day, and I knew that I needed to let the governor know that I wasn't going to be running again, because the expectations were that I would. And so I went down. Governor Martz was the governor at the time, and I went down to Governor Martz, and I had my 11-year-old son with me, and we went down to the governor's office, and I said, Governor, you're gonna see something in the paper tomorrow, and I just want to give you a heads up. And so I told her that I was not going to run for re-election, and I told her why, and she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. And she said, well, we need to pray about that. And so she got up and she closed her office door, the office of the governor. And the 3 of us, the governor and I and Caleb, my son, got down on our knees and prayed for God's direction going forward. Wow. And that's what kind of woman she was. Just an amazing, amazing woman.
That's incredible. What was it like to work with her as an elected official, and she was governor? Was she, pretty easy to work with oftentimes? Was she kind of aligned on the overall, I guess the majority's plans for policy? Was there, some tension there, or?
No, I think she was easy to work with. We were in meetings nearly every day with her, if not with her, then with one of her staff, charting the course through every legislative session. And that's the way it always is. The legislature works hand in glove, especially when the majority in the House and Senate are of the same party as the governor. Then you really are working as a team. Right. So yeah, she was just I can't say enough about her. She was a magnificent woman. The way she carried herself, she was almost like Margaret Thatcher or something. She just had this presence about her. She was regal and she was elegant, and at the same time extremely principled.
Yeah. So, a lot of people thought very highly of her, so much so that she now has a nice bronze, I believe, in front of the governor's office. It is large. It's a big one. Yeah. So after you left, you made that decision. The Lord revealed to you that, hey, you need to take care of your family first. So then you came back home. What eventually led you to the Montana Family Foundation? Because it was already in place before your arrival,
That's
correct?
correct. Yeah. So, yeah, there was a person that was the executive director before I stepped into this role, and it just wasn't a good fit. And the board and that person knew that like almost instantly, and so that just lasted for a couple of months, and they moved on. And then the board spent 4 months looking for someone, and then I announced that I was going to leave the legislature, and I'd worked with most of these people throughout my tenure in the legislature, and especially throughout my tenure on the Judiciary Committee, because the bills that you lobby on as a lobbyist for the Montana Family Foundation, and that Derek lobbies on, those are the at the heart of who the Montana Family Foundation is. Those social conservative policy bills, and so I had a track record. More than that, I had a voting record. And so they came to me and they said, "We hear that you might be looking for something. Would you consider taking this job?"
Yeah.
And so I did. And that was I don't know, almost 25 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so when we started, there was literally nothing. We didn't even have letterhead. We had nothing. And so anyway, that's where it began. That's how it began, and that's when I.
So what were those early days like? I know that you like to tell us that, hey, I was traveling the state talking to people about the mission of this organization to get it off the ground. What were those early days like for the Montana Family Foundation?
Well, so politics and public policy are a little bit different. If you're going to do a startup on a tech company, it has to be in a garage. Okay, but not with us. Ours was in a spare mobile home on our farm that we used to use as an office for the farm. And it was just when we first started, it was just two of us, me and my secretary, and she put up with a lot. Let's just say that the conditions were not elegant, and we just were trying to save money and trying to get this organization off the ground. There was a point where we used to raise chickens. My wife was brooding 100 chickens in the bathtub of the bathroom of this while we were running the foundation in the same building. So yeah, things were a little. This is Montana, and you just do what you have to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't long before we caught our stride, and I did drive all over the state in the early days, doing 3 a days sometimes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner events in wildly different places. One day I remember I started off in Glasgow, Montana, with a breakfast, and then lunch was in Great Falls, and then an evening event in Hamilton. And that is a long, that was a long day.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that's how we just have to get out there and tell people who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so people caught on to the vision, and at the same time we began our legislative update radio broadcast.
Yep.
And that was because Ed Matter, one of our board members, was the general director of Your Network of Praise. And so they had not just a statewide presence, they had a 6-state presence and going up into Canada. And so they put our legislative update on that radio show. And that also really launched us because it gave us some name recognition.
So did we get some supporters from Canada?
I don't think so.
Okay. That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting. I don't think so. And we have had supporters from other states. We've had supporters. People somehow heard about us in California and sent a donation in from California.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And quick shout out to Jennifer, your wife. She, is such a tremendous support for you. I know you're always giving her shout outs at all of our events.
Bride
and she's
for almost 40 years now.
Congratulations.
We're coming up quick on our 40th. Yeah.
And how many kids?
Five kids, together. 8 grandkids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Life is good.
Yeah. Well,
that's the good stuff. That's the important stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for listeners to know that, they probably hear from you on the radio updates, and then most of what they probably read about, at least previously, before people stopped reading the mainstream news, was what was written about you in the newspapers. And it's far from who you really are. And you're really a very caring person who actually walks the walk. but has a tremendous passion for this fight and protecting families and advancing these issues.
Yeah.
And what would you say, as the Family Foundation's mission has progressed over 25 years of your involvement, what would you say you have seen throughout that time? Are we making progress in these spaces, or is culture just pushing down as hard as we're pushing out? How do you view this space that we're in and how it's progressed over 25 years?
Well, that's a great question. So obviously, there have been changes.
Yeah.
And the one of the changes I think that to me is the most one of the saddest parts of this job is that, and first of all, back to answer your first question about having things printed about you and whatever, that all started clear back when I was in the legislature.
Okay.
And really, politics is a rough and tumble, dog eat dog, winner take all game.
Yeah.
And if you don't have thick skin, you shouldn't be in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so people can write what they think, but everybody has an opinion, and everyone is entitled to an opinion. Some people get to print their opinions in newspapers, and and it gives them a bigger platform.
Right.
But anyway, one of the things that I think is most disturbing about what I've seen is that as the battles that we're fighting now have, a lot of them have always been there. They were not quite as prevalent as they are now, and a lot of that has to do with the courts actually giving the other side what they want when it wasn't earned, really, or when it makes no biological or common sense. Right. And so that's really launched the other side. It wasn't that society changed. It was that the courts forced these issues on society. And but the thing that disturbs me, I think, most is the lack of civility now. When I was in the legislature and then in the early days of the Montana Family Foundation, there were people on the other side that I would have dinner with. The president of the ACLU, the president of Montana Pride. He and I never had dinner together, but we actually traveled the state debating same-sex marriage in 2004 when we put that on the ballot in Montana, a constitutional amendment. And I remember we were in Missoula. It was the week before the election, so this was our final debate, and it was at the University of Montana, bastion of conservatism. And held at the University of Montana Law School, and the debate was sponsored by the ACLU. And so I was not on friendly territory. And it was 2.5 hours, Lincoln Douglas style. It was a great debate. So we're in the middle of this debate, and suddenly, for the first time in my life, my opponent was named Carl, threw out the word hate. He said, "These people that hate us, blah, blah, blah," and went on. He'd heard that somewhere at a national conference or something.
Sure.
And Carl and he appeared before me when I was chairing the Judiciary Committee, and I always thought of him as a friend. And so I said, "Whoa, wait a minute." And I said, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for interrupting you in a debate. But you just used the word hate." I said, "Carl, do you think I hate you?" And he just stopped, paused. I've got the videotape, shows this. He paused for a second. He said, "No." And I said, "Thanks, go on. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clear that up." So at the end of the debate, a young lesbian girl came up to me, a college student, and she said, "I just want you to know that I did not agree with a single thing that you said here tonight, but I just want to thank you for not hating us." And sometimes in these types of debates, that's a win. That's the best you're ever going to get, And so that was the way it was back then. And there were gay and lesbian legislators that I was friends with. Now that's all gone away. The atmosphere in the House and Senate is very caustic. Back when I was in there, those organizations, the ACLU and others, had lobbyists that had gray hair. And so they've been around for a while. They knew when to get bent out of shape, and they knew when not to. Now everything is a 9-alarm fire with the young lobbyists, and they're just young hired guns. And and if you don't agree with them, you hate them. And that's the thing that bothers me. They equate simply disagreeing on a policy issue with hate. And it's a cheap, easy way out, first of all, and it's not true, second of all. So that bothers me, but that's one of the big changes.
It seems like it's a strategy to try to hurt our side and make us and paint us as something that we're not. Because I mean, you have built up the foundation to now. How many staff do we have? Seven, seven or eight or something like that.
Eight, I think now.
Yeah. And you have brought on people who are Christ followers, who don't hate people. I mean, I can't honestly think of anyone on our team who harbors hate for somebody.
There is not a flamethrower in the bunch.
And we have disagreements with individuals up at the Capitol and, through the work that we do, but it's always professional. We always keep it professional. It's about the issues. It's about trying to make sure that our ideas win in this kind of battle place of ideas.
Sure.
But we do not harbor hate for anybody. And that's truly the heart of the Montana Family Foundation. I mean, we pray every week together, sometimes more than that. I mean, oftentimes more than that. Right. And oftentimes we're praying for people that we disagree with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that as you have built this organization and built up so much credibility in this space, I mean, the Family Foundation is seen as kind of a beacon in this space of something that is trustworthy. That is largely credit to what you've built here. And excuse me, I think that one unique aspect of that is that you have a lot of autonomy in how you direct this organization. And I think that that's unique. Some people may not realize that, but in the nonprofit space, there is oftentimes, national parent organizations that have a lot of donors nationally that may not hold the interests of Montana specifically,
Sure.
that kind of direct the local organization which direction they need to go. And oftentimes that seems to be in conflict with what actually needs to be done in the state.
Sure.
But that doesn't really seem to be the case in Montana. When you go to one of our banquets, it is filled, always sold out, filled with Montana supporters.
Absolutely.
Right. And just talk to me a little bit about how that has really helped you to, lead this organization the way that you wanted to.
Yeah. So I don't think that, that's unique to Montana. I think that is going back all the way to the genesis of these organizations, plural. Dr. Dobson was the one that first had this vision. Dr. Dobson created an organization called the Family Research Council, was one of the founders years ago. And they were so successful in affecting public policy from a positive perspective or from a Judeo-Christian perspective, that they said, how can we replicate this model at the state level? And so they came up with the idea of these state level family policy councils.
Yeah.
So the Family Policy Alliance is now the organization that we're all under, but there's about 42 of us now in 42 different states. And I think the key to our success is it is not top down, it is bottom up, and we are all autonomous. Yeah. And by the same token, we're so autonomous that we have to raise all of our own money. We don't get money from, up above or anything. But at the same time, it allows us to, you credited me with this organization. I credit God. All I'm doing, I'm like a conduit. All I do is just listen to the hymn and then interact with the culture in a way that I think would please him. Yeah. So in a way that strengthens those amazing things that he's given us, like the family. The other side they just wanted, I don't know that they consciously want to destroy the family, but the policies that they put in place, if allowed to go to their logical end, would. Yeah. And so that's why we fight against it. We don't care about, it's not the people that we're against. We're fighting against policies all the time, bad policy.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's the reason that I think that this movement is so successful, is because we're autonomous. And so we generally deal with the same issues in every state, because the issues, we just had Alex Newman as the speaker at a couple of our fundraising banquets. And he made very clear that the issues that we're dealing with on the state level are they're not thought up for the most part at the state level or even the federal level. They come from even above that. Yeah. And so he was throwing up all kinds of videos from people from the United Nations talking about how they want to change the family structure and things like that. And so all of us working in concert as Family Policy Alliance members strengthen us, because we're one large team, but it doesn't take away from our ability to deal on a real pointed basis with those issues that are specific to each of our states.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone who is a staff person, it is so helpful to be able to have those other groups across the country that I can collaborate with in, my specific work field for the foundation, and then vice versa, assist them where we're able to.
Yeah.
One thing that I think that everybody is interested in is, what does the future look like for the Montana Family Foundation? Because people have seen growth. They have seen, Derek come on as Chief Legal Government Affairs Director. I got blessed to join shortly after that.
Yeah.
We now have a individual, Evangeline, who's always behind the scenes on these podcasts, but she's the one who makes it work.
Yeah.
And she's just a rock star. So what are you building towards? What's the vision of the future of the Montana Family Foundation?
Well, when I started this job, I didn't have gray hair, and I had a lot more hair than I do now. When I leave, I want to leave in place an organization that is set to launch to a much higher level, and that was the case with the Family Research Council years ago. Gary Bauer, was one of the people that founded it, and did a great job. And when he left, it was a solid organization. It wasn't going anywhere. It was well respected. And then they brought in Tony Perkins, and he launched it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're looking for. When I leave, we're looking for the next person that can take the foundation that we've built on and just launch it and become even more influential across the state, in a positive way for families from a Judeo-Christian perspective.
That's excellent. And a sneak peek that some individuals have been getting at our fundraising banquets is a pretty cool slideshow regarding a move that the Family Foundation is going to be making in the future, near future potentially.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that's going to look like and what we're building towards.
Yeah. So it's bigger than we are. That's for sure. That's the best part about it. So we have located a place to build a building in Helena right next to the Capitol. Right in the center of power of the government, surrounded by all the people that we deal with on a regular basis at Health and Human Services, at the Department of Justice, at the Supreme Court. We're right in the middle of all that. And we're building what will be called the Montana Center for Christian Policy. And the Montana Family Foundation for years has been located in Laurel, Montana, only because I live there, and because when the board first approached me about taking over the helm of the organization, they wanted us to move to Helena. They wanted me to pack up my family and move. And we have a farm on the Clarks Fork River, and we're living the dream.
Yeah.
And I just said, we're homeschooling our kids, and I mean, life was good. And I just said, I'm not gonna just disrupt that. And so they said, okay, well, someday when you either quit or retire, the organization needs to move to Helena. And so we're getting closer to that point now.
Yeah.
And so finally, we've located this property, and we're going to build this Center for Christian Policy. And what it is rather than just building a headquarters and offices for the Family Foundation, which we really need, we are building a vertically integrated policy hub that's going to contain homes for nonprofit organizations, more than just us, many nonprofit organizations. It's going to contain an entire floor of conservative Christian attorneys that will augment what we're already doing with our legal department at the Family Foundation. And then it will also include the Montana Family Foundation and all of the different elements that we're a part of. So it'll be a three-story building. Top floor will be Montana Family Foundation. That's so we do legislation, litigation, research, education, and service. That's who we are as an entity. And so then the next floor down will be all these attorneys, and the attorneys will be required to give a certain number of pro bono hours to augment what we're doing. You mentioned Derek A. Stryker, our chief legal counsel, to augment what Derek's doing at the Supreme Court and in the other lawsuits that he's got going right now. And then in addition, they're going to provide pro bono legal services to the first floor, which in my opinion is one of the most exciting parts of this whole thing. Yeah. So I spoke last year at a big nonprofit convention for Christian nonprofits in Montana, and came to realize that there are so many nonprofits out there that are doing great work, but they're run by one or two people out of somebody's, spare bedroom of their house. And the failure rate is higher than it should be.
Yeah.
So I think what we can do is pull them together on the first floor of this building and create basically the equivalent of a Christian nonprofit business incubator. We'll put them all in close proximity to each other so that they can feed off of each other with ideas and goals. And then the lawyers on the second floor will provide them pro bono legal services. So that would be setting up all their corporate documents, making sure that those types of things are in place and so that they're solid. And if they get attacked, they've got the guys on the second floor and our team on the third floor that can back them up. And then they would also have our team on the third floor that would counsel them in terms of nonprofit best business practices. Because a lot of us get into this nonprofit arena because we have a goal and a vision, and we don't really realize that that there's actually a business here that has to be run. You quickly realize that as the leader of the organization when you start hiring and realize now you have families that you're responsible for. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from Dr. Dobson, we were in his office one day, and he looks at me and he says, "Jeff, you can't change the world if you can't pay the light bill." And it's absolutely true. So there's a whole business side. So our team will teach these young nonprofits best business practices so that they can be successful on that level too. So all that, it's literally a living organism in 3 stories, a vertically integrated hub.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who listened to that, if you're not excited about that, you should probably check your pulse, because if you've worked in this space for any period of time, everyone knows that there's such a need for something like this. And all of these nonprofit groups that are aligned with us on so many different issues, they're really looking for support. They're looking for a place that they can work together and brainstorm and just grow their ideas together. So everyone in our team is obviously extremely excited, and we have a lot of partners across the state who are hearing about this, who are very much excited, and they're trying to get in line already to get in the spaces. So if individuals who are listening want to contribute to helping make this a reality, what can they do?
So it's going to be, it's kind of scary, actually. I mean, it's going to be millions of dollars to pull this off. We've done big and scary before, and we have a plan. And so anybody that wants to contribute to help make this a reality can just call the Family Foundation or go on our website and make a donation, and you can earmark it toward the building fund, and we'll make sure that that's exactly where it goes.
All right. Excellent. Well, Jeff, anything else for our listeners today? It's rare that we get to have you on. So do you have anything that you want to share with our listeners today as we close up?
I just think that it's important that people, that Christians especially, begin to realize that we are in a battle. And I don't think a lot of us realize that. And it doesn't need to be a battle where we're running around being antagonistic, but we need to understand that there are entities out there that really want to change the face of the family. And the family is key to the success of any nation. And as families begin to disintegrate, become dysfunctional, fall apart, you wind up seeing the breakdown of the family reflected in increased cost to the government, welfare, food stamps. We just went through that with the shutdown of the government. We just heard a story you were talking about, a school teacher that just said that that this year's class of 4th graders was the worst behaved class she's ever had in her career. And that just kills me, So I'm somebody that came out of bad schools. And that's one of the reasons that that I am such a strong advocate of school choice. But anyway, so it's important that we would continue to focus on strengthening families, and we really believe that the best place for a child to be raised is in an intact home with their biological parents. So let's figure out what we need to do that. That's the gold standard. And then let's do everything we can to shore up those families that are not in that circumstance. But let's try to create families where kids are raised in an intact home with their biological parents.
Excellent. If you would like to listen to more of Jeff on the radio, he has radio updates. Jeff, where can people hear the radio updates?
They can hear them on your network of praise. The easiest way is to just go to our website at montanafamily.org and click on the radio updates, and it'll give you all the stations and what time they're on. We're on like 60 stations and translators. We blanket Montana.
Yeah.
We're both on your network of praise, and then we're also on Montana Talks with Aaron Flint as well. So we hit every square inch of Montana.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for hopping onto the podcast today. I know we've been looking forward to it for a long time. To all of our listeners, thank you for listening. Please make sure that you subscribe and that you share this podcast with others. And if you're interested in supporting the project for the building, please visit our website at montanafamily.org. And on behalf of Derek and the Montana Family Matters podcast and the foundation as a whole, we thank you for listening and hope you have a good rest of your day.